live the facts of your faith. What you know to be true, you are to do it. Even so, faith, if it has no works, is dead. That's a very interesting word. First, James starts off talking about what use is it. Talks about the benefit of faith, the usefulness of faith. But then he concludes that if you claim to have faith, but you do not exhibit the works of faith, then your faith is dead. It's an exaggeration on James' part. To say something is useless is to say, okay, it's useless. To say something is dead becomes kind of sad. He exaggerates that faith can be dead, inactive, useless, good for nothing if it does not exhibit works to follow. Some scholars argue that James is arguing against Paul in preaching a works-based salvation. James is not preaching a works-based salvation. You cannot do anything to get salvation. What James is arguing is that if you are saved and you know what salvation entails, then you should have behavior that exhibits what you know. I admit that behavior is probably not the best indication to consider whether or not a person is saved. Behavior can be very misleading. You have people who live like Christians, but if you ask them, do they believe in Jesus Christ, they'll tell you, I don't go to church, I don't believe in that religious stuff at all. They are just naturally good people. Behavior is not always the best indication that a person is saved, but it is an indication for people who say that they are saved, but do not behave like saved people. This is James's argument. He says that faith without works is dead. He dramatically emphasizes the uselessness of a conviction without the conscience being intact. Your conscience keeps you from doing stupid stuff. You know right and wrong because you have a conscience. A God-given ability just to know what's right and what's wrong. How do I know this? Just watch your child. They know that they can't have no candy. But as soon as you turn your head, they're going to look at you and take little bitty steps. Have you ever told them that was wrong? No. Then how do they know it? Because they have a conscience. Some people say that serial killers don't have a conscience. Psychiatrists would say that serial killers don't have a conscience. How could you say that? If they didn't have a conscience, they would kill somebody and go to the police station. Okay. But what do? They run. Why do they run? Because they know what they did was wrong. But the Bible does speak about having a seared conscience, which means you just keep suppressing what you did. But it doesn't erase the fact that you know right from wrong. To practice what you proclaim, to live like a Christian, certifies what your conscience knows. Conscience knows that it is factual that Jesus was resurrected from you. And your behavior follows that, certifying that you are who you say you are. It stamps it to say they are who they say that they are. The Christian conduct is important for Christians to display so that people will not mistake us for being something that we're not. It often takes boldness. Best illustration of a convicted conscience is probably Daniel chapter 3. In Daniel chapter 3, we are introduced to three gentlemen by the name of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The king, Nebuchadnezzar, has erected a statue of himself and has ordered all of the people to bow down and worship the statue. But they are convinced that there is no God but their God. They are convinced that there is no power but the power that their God possesses. Their conscience has been convicted that God is the only God, and Him only should we bow down and worship. Amen. Now, how do you know that that's the conviction of their conscience? Because when the king has his men to blow the trumpet, which indicated that it was time to bow, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are still standing up. Why are you still standing, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? It's because our conscience is letting us know that God is the only one worthy of our praise. And they have to say nothing. People look at their behavior and they say, they are servants of the one true living God. Watch it now. Their behavior got them placed in a fiery furnace. This is what we would avoid. We would do just the opposite of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Say, I believe, but I ain't trying to go to the fiery furnace. This is what James means when he says, what use is your faith? Watch me, church. They keep standing because they believe what they believe. Their behavior certifies their belief. They get placed in a fiery furnace, and their belief is what got them in the furnace, and guess what gets them out? Their belief. This is what James means when he says, what good is your faith if it don't work for nothing? It's your faith that will get you into trouble, but it's that same faith that will get you out of trouble. Watch what they say. They say, "O King, live forever. You can do whatever you want to do to us. Our God is able." Do you hear their faith? Our God is able to deliver us from your hand. But watch it. Makes chills go through my body. But even if He don't, He's still able. And we will not worship you. Amen. And if you got that kind of faith in God, watch God show up on your behalf. Bible goes on to say, Daniel chapter 3, that when the king woke up that morning, he looked into the fiery furnace, and there he saw three men walking around inside of the furnace. What they still doing alive is because their faith was active and their God was able to deliver them. Amen. Now they had the testimony that trusting in God can get you out of a bad situation. Yes, you'll find it very difficult to encourage people that God is a doctor in a sick room, unless you have trusted God in your sick room. You'll find it very difficult to tell somebody that God is a lawyer in the courtroom, unless you have trusted God to be your lawyer in your courtroom. You'll find it very difficult to encourage somebody to keep on keeping on if you have not activated your faith in your actions. It certifies the conviction of your conscience. Is all your behavior does. And it lets other people know what it is you believe. The bottom line of the passage is that Christian conduct should coincide with your theological intellect. That's all James is trying to say. It's that what you know to be true ought to be displayed in your actions.
All right.
Your Christian conduct ought to coincide with your theological intellect. If you know God is a healer, you don't have to fall to pieces when the doctor gives you bad news.
Amen.
If you know God can make a way out of no way, you don't have to fall to pieces when you see a roadblock. If you know that God specializes in things that seem impossible, you don't have to fall apart.
Amen.
But you can't confess one thing and do another.
All right.
Let me tighten that up. You can confess one thing and do another, but you shouldn't confess one thing and do another.
All right. Thank you, Lord.
It gives the wrong impression, and people would mistake you for being something that you're not. There's a young girl named Judy who grasped the concept of faith in works. Judy loved birds. Every time you saw Judy, she would just go outside with bread and she just wanted to play with the birds. But Judy had 3 brothers who hated the birds. So what her 3 brothers would do was they would invent bird traps and they would hold the birds captive. Judy hated for her brothers to create these bird traps to hold the bird captive. So what Judy did was she started praying, asking God to keep the birds from the traps. Her mother came in the house one day, noticed the birds did not get caught into the trap. Her mother asked her, came in praising God. Mama, God answered my prayer. He didn't let the birds get into the traps. And she said, why do you think that is? What did you pray? She said, I prayed and asked God that the birds would not go to the traps. Mother looked at Judy and said, you got a lot of faith to believe that God would keep those birds from those traps. What else did you do? She said, I prayed to God that something would happen to the traps. Mother said, wonderful faith that you have. Judy, what else did you do? She said, I went outside and I kicked over the traps. Because Judy understood that just because she believed in God did not mean she didn't have to do nothing.
All right.
We get the faith and works thing mixed up. We think if I just believe, God will take care of everything else. He says, no, you can believe, that's good, but I got something for you to do too. We often don't like to do our part. It doesn't mean that we're not saved. It does mean that people will assume that we are not saved. I don't want to give the impression that I am something I'm not. I don't think you want to do that either. I'm through with the sermon now. But it is very uncomfortable to live in a way that you know you're not. The sweetest person I know is my wife. They're very sweet. She's just naturally sweet and sensitive. So when she tries to act hard, I know it has to be very unusual. And it's very annoying to me because I just want to say, that's just not who you are. She knows me, I can care less about a hip-hop song. But every once in a while, just because I care less about it don't mean I don't know. So I'll mess with it every once in a while and I'll sing a hip-hop song. And I'll purposely sing it properly. And you know what she was telling me? She just looked at me and she'll say, just stop, just please, just stop. But it's the next phrase that gets me. She'll say, that's not who you are. That's what I want to tell you, Christians, who are behaving like un-Christians. Just stop it. That's not who you are. I know you're trying to mingle with the crowd and you don't want to feel left out, but just stop. Just stop. That's just not who you are. I think that's the bottom line of James's text. He's encouraging Christians to stop behaving like unbelievers because that's just not who you are. God bless you. God keep you.